Evening, everybody. I need to update those opening titles, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I need to say Sunday service. Anyway, talking of Sundays, we're all having this lovely discussion about Sunday roast before we came on air. So if you'd like to finish off your Sunday roast discussion.
No, we got on to the subject of fish and chips, hadn't we?
Oh, fish and chips. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I mean, I bought 2 lots of fish and chips on Friday, a portion of chips and a curry sauce, and 2 plain sausages for the dogs to take round to my brother and the plague colony, the leper colony over there, everybody COVID infected.
15 quid.
It was over 20 quid.
We bought, this is what we were talking about last night. We bought 2 mini fish and chips and 2 large peas at our local chippy, and it was £14.50. They charge £3.50 for a portion of chips. How can a portion of chips that's made up of a small percentage of a bag of chips be £3.50?
Did you pay it?
Well, I did. Yeah,
there's your answer.
Yes, I suppose so. Yeah, I guess so. But fish and chips always used to be like your kind of you sort of cheap Friday meal, didn't it?
No, it's not anymore.
It's almost kind of high end now as a takeaway. You know,
but it's a crisis, mate. There's no cheap these days.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Spence, it's because I get fish and chips every other week on a Thursday. My mum wants fish and chips, so I get fish and chips and take fish. I go round to hers and we have fish and chips, and the price has been steadily climbing over the last year.
Yeah, it has.
It has. You know, a year ago it would cost me 12 quid for what I got every week for me and mum. Now it's 14. You know, that's a that's a significant increase in less than a year.
Yeah. I guess we're all sort of in that kind of process of dealing with inflationary costs and all that sort of stuff. But I think that there is certain things that you really do raise an eyebrow about and just think, hang on a minute, you know. So it would almost, I mean, although then, because, you know, when you sort of eat a big portion of chips just for almost the sake of it, really, don't you? So, and then you start to think, well, actually, it'd probably be cheaper if I just bought 2 mini fish and then a small chips. We share those, and then we just share the peas, kind of thing. But yeah, it does seem to be certainly going up in price, and you know, food costs, and yeah, they are
living
cost of living. God.
Well, I mean that goes. I mean that carries straight across to our hobby, though, doesn't it? Because people are going to have demonstrably and visibly less money to spend on what is effectively a luxury.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. You know, and it's you know, it might have been starting the discussion tonight off on a fairly light-hearted note, but it does, you know, it does carry across to that point where, you know, you have to start asking yourself where it's going to really impact, you know, the traders we have with us, you know, who join us on here and stuff. You know, clearly we wouldn't want to, you know, they're not going to want to share that information for obvious reasons, but you can't help but think that's going to, you know, what's happening to us at the moment is going to have an impact.
Yeah, without doubt. Certainly without doubt. One of the things that I found, not just the cost really, but I found as well that I think I think it would be easy to discuss why it's impacting us in the UK. I mean, that would be a cheap shot that all 3 of us would make because we feel passionate about it, which we don't really want to go down. But certain things I did find last year were quite difficult to come across. One of them, I think I mentioned on here before, was Plasticard. I found plasticard very difficult to find, and when I could find it, it was the quality of it wasn't that great. The sheets were slightly smaller. They weren't A4. They were sub A4 sheets. And I think I had the conversation with Andy Hills at Antics about this when I was in there last summer. I think it would have been. We were talking about buying plasticard, and I bought quite a bit of plasticard from him because they got it in. That was something I noticed that was a little bit more difficult to kind of come across. It seems to settle down now, and it's a little bit easier to come across now. Styrofoam was another one. You may remember that I ended up buying an industrial quantity of 10 mil and 5 mil styrofoam sheets, and then sliced them down so that they were sort of they were easy to store because they came in like big packs or whatever. Those were kind of.
I found that something I found was getting hold of 5,000 plasticard.
Yeah,
incredibly difficult. I mean, I bought some sheets 20 years ago now in when I was in the United States.
Yeah,
and I'm still using them now. But I I'll do regular searches for 5,000 plastic sheet, and you can't find it, and it's so useful. 5,000.
I can't remember the last time. I can't remember, genuinely, Drew. I can't remember the last time I saw anybody selling 5,000 plasticard. And you remember when we were, sort of coming through, and we used to watch the guys scratch building, and there used to be that trick, didn't there, where you do like a wooden core wing, and then you'd have the plasticard would then fold and you would glue it with contact adhesive and everything. That was always 5,000 card, and they would then scribe in on the underside of the card the ribs and everything to create the detail. And it is literally impossible to get hold of. Certainly, it certainly hasn't been sold in the UK for 10 years, 20 years, maybe. And I wonder whether anybody still makes it, because even if you search for ultra thin plasticard, polystyrene card, styrene card, it doesn't come up in searches either. So I wonder if it's a thing that's ever made now.
I mean, I got a few. I mean, I remember specifically in San Francisco in 2000, specifically buying 2 packets of it because it was, I hadn't seen it in the UK for years, even then.
Yeah, I wonder if any of our sort of foreign viewers on here have seen any of this 5,000 card in their countries, or whether it's a worldwide sort of thing that you can't get, or whether it is just in the UK. I can't imagine it would be just here, because you can get every other plastic card.
I mean, I must admit, the last plastic sheet I bought, I just bought from eBay in bulk and got 10,000 and 20,000, which is one of the few things I still buy in Imperial. I get a little bit like John does when he's starting to get down to his 15th bottle of Tamiya Extra Thin. I start to panic slightly when I see that the plasticard pile is sort of diminished slightly, and that happened with black card. If I'm building dioramas, I always edge all the sort of with black card. But I get a little bit twitchy, and I know John gets a little bit twitchy if he's not. That's my big thing full of plastic sheets of all different.
You see, that gives me a very warm glow just seeing that bag of
that's the last of my 5 Evergreen 5,000, which is probably the stuff I use most of all.
I'm just doing a quick search online here. Evergreen 5,000 plasticard. All I keep coming up is threads on modelling forums with people saying, "What's happened to 5,000 plasticard?"
Yeah, why can't you get 5,000?
Like that. Because you remember 5,000.
That's it. It's like paper. It's paper thin, isn't it?
Yeah.
And in fact, I think the last time I saw some 5,000 might have been in the Tamiya Field Kitchen kit. Might have been in that, and I think I might have a little tiny piece of it. But I would
even a sheet of clear there, protected with covering on it. How about that?
The last time I saw a sheet of 5,000 plasticard was the tiny little sheet that was included in my in one of my Airfix kind of like pikeman sets.
Yeah,
which Airfix used to do with their figures. They always used to include a little strip of 5,000 plasticard. But but bizarre. Again, I don't know why it's disappeared off the face of the earth. You'd think well, there's nothing in 5,000 plasticard that isn't present in 10, 15, 20, 30. So is it?
It's just a demand thing, I think. It's just
possibly.
It must be literally just a demand thing.
Yeah, and if you're scratch building, if you're doing any kind of scratch building, it is extremely useful to have that very thin card around.
Yeah.
And
Even
and
for
like we
stuff
say,
cockpit, if you're building, cockpits and you want placards and stuff making,
yeah,
that's just the go-to for it, isn't it?
yeah, it is.
So
yeah.
it's I think this hunt continues, and it's almost like, do you wonder if the people who make plastic sheet, they must be able to make it, because sort of huge amounts of this stuff is used in industry, isn't it? It's used for vacuum forming packages and stuff.
Yeah,
In industry, I mean, what's a margarine tub?
Yeah.
That's just polystyrene, isn't it? Because people cut it up and use it for detailing models. Evergreen, John Patrick Houston there, Evergreen 0.125, 690 euro.
Is that 5,000?
Yeah, 0.125 is 5,000.
No,
0.05 is 2,000, so 0.125 is 5,000.
What's 0.005?
0.005 is 0.2 of a thou.
Right.
0.0, you won't get that. That is like 2/10,000ths of an inch.
Right, I've got it here on a website here. It says Evergreen 0.000, plain white opaque styrene sheets, 3-pack, 0.005 inch thick.
That's inches. Yeah, that's 5,000.
That's 5,000.
Yeah.
Well, they've got it here. Evergreen plain white opaque styrene sheets, 3-pack, $5.99.
Well, there you go.
Nexus modelling supplies.
Can you put the link up?
It's available.
So, which just goes to prove that probably I've been looking in entirely the wrong place for the last.
But this is the point. This is the point where I go, look, it's available, and get excited and go, but I've already got some, so I don't need any.
Or I'll go on there and there won't be any, and I'll just be disappointed and be.
Or if you like me, when you find something like this you've been searching for, you'll go on there and buy like 50 quid's worth, and then
which is what I did with the styrofoam, and then realised that I'd got more than enough until, I probably am not going to use the whole lot of it at all.
It's got 2 in stock.
2 in stock.
Yeah, we're going to start
by the time we finish this, because everybody will just order it just to annoy us.
Well, I'm actually adding to basket, adding to cart. 2.
Oh dear.
My account. I'm now going to shut that window off so that I can complete my purchase.
Oh dear.
You snooze, you lose, people. Come on.
You see,
and then I shall sell it individually on eBay per A5 sheet.
Cut each sheet into 4 pieces.
Absolutely.
And sell it for £7 a sheet.
I'll be selling it in the little sizes that you used to get in the little Airfix kits. So it'll be literally a postage
£10 a
stamp.
sheet.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
That's what it's going to be. Yeah, it is those kind of things, and I know obviously we've got a reputation for dealing with old kits, but I really don't want to sully your reputations with the kind of nonsense that I kind of enjoy.
I'm the only one who doesn't. John does. I'm the only one who's a modern,
he's a modern day warrior. Mean pride.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm the one who sidesteps that. You guys don't.
Yeah, which actually leads us on to something we were talking about earlier on. I'd rather not say what the project is, Drew, at the moment for fairly obvious reasons. But we were talking about how modern technology can be used to create new parts for some of these older kits where you want to adjust the kits and all of that.
Yeah.
It kind of came to mind when I was thinking about the Harrier conversion that I did and how much easier that would have been had I had access to sort of 3D design and 3D printing.
Yeah, it's almost like it's in. I mean, that's only what, 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years.
And in the and in the interim now, multiple people with access to 3D printers and the design software to go with them. It just shows the way that the whole landscape has shifted massively, even in the last sort of 5 years.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it would have got, you know, it would have cut down so much time, and David Parker uses the description scratch printing as his kind of like go-to description
Yeah,
for that.
yeah. I mean, if
And
you're designing, because the thing is, the design of this stuff can take tens of hours.
yeah,
So it's not like you're taking a shortcut to what you want. You're actually putting in the time just at a different stage of the process.
yeah,
And then once you've actually spent that time, the advantage is you never have to spend that time again.
yeah.
As long as you've
I
got
mean,
a dialed
one
in
of
printer, you can do as many as you like. But the initial time is, if you spent 5 hours making a joystick from scratch, I can practically guarantee you that the process, if you exclude the actual printing time, the process of getting a joystick designed and printed is going to be at least 5 hours by the time that the person designing it and doing the test prints has gone through all the iterations of it, and got it printing successfully.
Yeah, we had this was actually something that I wrote about in one of the MAI op-eds, and I think this came from a discussion that we saw, it was last year, and I think we discussed this. We probably touched on this in the past, and this is this idea that somehow people who design and print their own kind of 3D stuff, it's not scratch building. And my argument would be, yes, it is. Or as David Parker says, scratch printing. I would say, yes, it is. And then somebody said, yeah, but if I was to download that design from the internet and print it out, is that scratch building? No,
Well, no.
Because you have consumed somebody else's R&D.
That's exactly the same. That's exactly the same as calling somebody making something from etched brass scratch build. No, of course it's not.
It's if you haven't originated it, then it's no different than if you've gone out and bought it physically in a shop. You see, but if you're the person who, I don't see scratch printing as being any less scratch building than if somebody masters their own wheels and then creates RTV molds for them and then resin casts their own wheels. It's still scratch building.
Yeah,
but I gotta say, sometimes I'm not saying it certainly isn't a generational thing, but it's certainly a technophobic thing. Whereas people who don't understand the technology, or they don't want to understand the technology, or they just don't have the skills to understand the technology, it's much easier for them to just write it off as, we've seen this with Adam Tooby's box art, it's just plinky plonky, press a keyboard, press a button that says make artwork, there's no skill involved. And you think, fine, show us how to do it then, Tiger.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I had a conversation. I contacted Drew this morning. We had a conversation, nice FaceTime conversation. We were chatting about it, about certain things that I needed, and how those parts, and they are essentially very simple. Drew will tell you, they're essentially very simple pieces that we were talking about, but how those pieces could be integrated within a bigger project. And I had the same conversation. I had Nigel Poole was over on, not yesterday, day before, popped over and had a coffee, and we had a chat, and we were talking about the same things. And I think I mentioned on Tuesday about the Harrier is a good example of this. I'll use I can't think of the exact title of them. They're the kind of locking nuts that you have on the pylons, and there are 4 on each pylon, and then there's 5 pylons. There are 20 of these things, all to be scratch built in 24 scale, and each one of those pieces was 6 parts that I individually had to glue together and then paint and then glue into the things. They're identical across all 5 pylons, so there's no change in size or anything like that. So I would have created that part, put it onto the bed, reproduced it 20 times, and printed it out in one shot, and I would have had my parts, and I'd have gone on and happily did something else. It's those kind of pieces that where for somebody like me, it makes sense to do those kind of things. The other thing we were talking about, and I mentioned this to Nigel, was doing dioramas that included repetitive parts. One of them, and I don't think it's easy to understand how boring and monotonous this is. But when I did the workshop diorama years ago, in that there are dozens of individual spray cans. They're dotted all around the model. I individually turned each of those 35th scale aerosol cans on a chuck with plastic rod, and did each one individually. And then I did individual ones with the lids off with tiny little pieces for the spray heads. I did those. And this is why it took so long. Whereas I could have done one of each, and then I could have just printed hundreds of them. And
it's like I don't know if you see for a month, 6 weeks ago, I made the internal supports in the undercarriage bays of the Focke-Wulf 190 for the IBG kit.
Yes.
I reproduced those and printed them out because I didn't like the etched brass in the kit. And I promptly went ahead and I printed a sheet with about 150 of those on it. I need 2 per model.
Yes. So you've got them forever.
But I've got them forever now. There's just a sheet of these things. All I do if I want a pair is slice them off and fit them. Yeah. And I will probably, unless somebody else asks me to do some for them, I will probably never revisit that pattern again.
Yeah.
Because I've got enough now to last me a lifetime.
Yeah.
But it's just like, how many of these shall I do? Yeah. Clone. Did that, cloned it. You know, I nearly got RSI from my mouse button finger just from cloning it so many times.
I mean,
and then just, you know, and that's it now. I've got those for forever.
I think John makes a good point though about a lot of this, and it certainly applies to me about the sort of technophobic part of these kind of sort of conversations. And as you know, I've spoken to you about this before and tried to sort of wrap my head around it. And then Nigel came around and he explained it, and it started to make sense to me. I was like, oh, okay, I get all that. One of the things that we were talking about was supports for parts.
Yeah,
I don't understand how these supports work. And he just says, you can't print in thin air, was his comment.
Yes,
you cannot print in thin air. And so everything has to be connected. So he said, his description was, if he stood there, put his hands out, and he said, if you print me, he says, you have to have a support from each of my fingers, because if I put my hands out like that, my hands are in thin air and it won't print that. And then I thought, as he was talking about it, it suddenly started to click. And I thought, then I could process how that would work for what I kind of needed, really.
And that's quite often that you can have all sorts of software that shows you where we call them islands in 3D printing. It's where the islands are, that you have to make sure there's no islands in your print, which is just something out in thin air. And you'll find yourself printing something and finding out where the failures are and going back and adding supports there and then printing it again. And if the print is 5 hours long, you can find yourself doing 7 or 8 prints, just dialing in the supports, just to make sure it. On the other hand, sometimes you do something and you'll look and say, well, there's absolutely no islands on that, and it prints perfectly the first time.
Yeah. I guess that would be something like wheels where you've.
But like you said, Nigel said to you about, you know, that you started to click them with how it works. It's the same with CAD design. It's trying to get people to, once you click and you're working in 3 dimensions, once you can add that 3rd dimension in your head to what you're doing on the screen, it all sort of, everything starts falling into place. And that took me a long time before I suddenly started thinking in 3 dimensions on a 2-dimensional screen.
Yeah, I remember having the conversation with Tim Perry and saying, I can't process how you do that. And he said, you design books that are designed in layers.
Yeah.
How can you understand how to design a part?
No, because it's working. And on to the fact that there is a
puzzle of what I do day to day. There's no point in me having a skill and having all of the tools if I can't use that as a jump off point to improve what I do. But it was fascinating to see that and see how that works. And I guess it works as well with you guys, with like John with doing decals and, you know, and the patterns that he's done for a lot of the bigger projects that I've done over the last 2 years has been as the result of what John's done in terms of cutting masks and patterns and all of those kind of things. I mean, 3 specific models: the Lancaster, the Hellcat, the Tiger Moth. wouldn't have been possible without that input, that
Yeah,
technology, and that input. It's just how you can kind of manifest that technology into day-to-day projects and actually bring it into quite ordinary projects as well, to make them slightly extraordinary when they're kind of done.
Okay, we're getting a thing coming up here saying that apparently we're having a bit of a streaming issue with Facebook at the moment. So if anybody's watching on Facebook, if they can let me know that everything is fine here. It's we just had a warning thing come up to say that there is we're having trouble streaming to Facebook. This may be an issue on Facebook at Facebook's end. It will be at Facebook's end.
Well, everything's fine. Everything's fine this end with the way you two are streaming to me on here.
Yeah, it seems.
So
that'll be different.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's almost certainly an upstream problem then, not.
Yeah.
It's not our.
I'm just going to have a quick view on Facebook. I'm just seeing what it's doing, and
Stan Codling says working now.
Yeah. Bizarre. Okay, we'll keep an eye on it. I still got the warning thing come up here, but that's just annoying. It says move to YouTube. Yeah, well, we are streaming on YouTube. We're streaming on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. So we're not having any problems with Twitter and Facebook. Twitter and YouTube. It's just Facebook again.
Yeah, it's just one of those.
Facebook this week forcing me to do that 2-factor authentication. That took 2 days to sort out.
I've avoided that somehow. I don't know how. It's not asked me to do that.
I'm just checking. We're gonna do a little bit of news in a second. I'm just checking our feed on Facebook.
Is there any news?
There is news. I've got some news for you.
All right.
I've got some news. I do have some news. All right. Well, here we go. I'll do the news. We'll have the news music. Actually, we now actually have. Do you know we actually do have music here on here now? They've given us royalty-free music. Should we wish to use it? So so we can. Here we go. So we can have. Do you like this?
No, I hate
have
that.
His news. Okay, we can have this. His news.
That's Pinky Plonky horror, isn't it?
Yep.
What's that?
Well, that's dance. So I'm going to have this one.
I like the sound of that. That sounded like it was going to be.
Oh no, that sounds too much like Coldplay.
That sounded a bit like PSB to me.
Yeah.
Well, we literally are public service broadcasting here. It's Fairyland. It's Fairyland.
Well, the ship's everywhere. Look at it. It's everywhere.
We'll explain that one at the end of the show. Right. What we've got here is we've been sent the box art, the actual box art. All right, get a room, you two. For the Tamiya P38J Lightning.
What a glorious aeroplane!
How lovely does that look in metal?
Mm-hmm.
Good Lord!
Yep,
and it all went silent. And it all went.
No, we're just taking that box art's lovely as well, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, it's very, very atmospheric, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, I suppose there aren't too many angles that you can draw it and still see the
metal effect as well is just fabulous, isn't it?
It is really lovely.
That is just absolutely gorgeous.
And as well, having built the Lightning, I think who else has built that? Which of you have you both built one?
I built one.
Have you built one, Drew?
Well, the F.
Yeah.
Yeah, I built it in the same scheme you did.
Yeah.
Thanks for remembering, Spence. I'm glad my impact.
Oh, I do remember actually, because I did mine and you said that's it. I don't really want to do this anymore. I think was your comment, which was bizarre. The one thing about that kit is that you can kind of remember is that you can do that metal scheme and you'll have no problems at all with having to worry about seam lines or joints or anything, will you? It is the most extraordinary thing. I mean, you and I have had many conversations, haven't we, about which is the best 48th kit, and I think we still agree that it's the F14.
Tomcat for me still remains, but I mean the Lightning is there's not much in it.
Yeah.
There's certainly
Yeah.
not much in it, and I certainly don't remember any. There was no difficulties in building the Lightning, and it's a fabulous looking model when it's built.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's,
Can you imagine it being that you could have created that 48 scale kit and made it better than they did? I struggle to.
No, I don't
consider
see.
how
I mean,
possible.
there's stuff where you can find aftermarket that's got more detail, but in
Yeah.
terms of in terms of overall execution, given the technology that exists for injection molding, it just doesn't get any better. It really
No,
doesn't.
it really doesn't.
We have this discussion about stuff being Tamiya-like all the time, and nothing, however good stuff is, it's not Tamiya-like. There's a difference. There's something subtly different about the way Tamiya approach stuff and tool stuff that no matter how brilliant an Eduard kit is, it still doesn't feel like a Tamiya kit.
Yeah, we're going to have to do a hard reboot of the show because apparently Facebook is completely down at the moment for everybody. So what we're going to have to do is we're just literally going to have to disappear for about 2 minutes. I'm going to have to do a quick hard reboot here, and then we'll be back in. So if you hang on to your links, you should be able to come straight back into studio. So we will literally be gone for about 30 seconds. So we will see. We're going to end this one, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes, a couple of seconds. So in a while, people, in a while.